structure for unless. There are a number of things that we need to look at in terms of structure for unless. It's very, very flexible in terms of where it can appear in a sentence and in terms of what tense we use with unless. Let's first of all look at where we can place it within a sentence. Unless can be used at the beginning or in the middle of a sentence, depending on which clause comes first. Look at the two sentences below. They're both expressing the same thing, but unless appears at the beginning in the first one and in the middle in the second one. So the first one reads, unless we leave right now, we're going to miss our flight. Here we've placed the unless clause first. The second sentence reads, we're going to miss our flight unless we leave right now. In this sentence, I've placed the unless clause at the end, so unless appears in the middle of the sentence. They are both expressing exactly the same thing. However, the final clause is the clause that carries the most weight. So you can place the unless clause at the beginning of the sentence or at the end of the sentence. Just remember, whichever clause appears at the end, it carries a bit more weight. That's the message that you're leaving the listener with. So if I say, unless we leave right now, we're going to miss our flight. My main message that I want to leave with you is, we're going to miss our flight, or we might miss it. If, however, I say, we're going to miss our flight unless we leave right now, my main message, or the part that carries more weight, is we need to leave right now. Let's go. Okay, so just keep that in mind. The final clause carries a little bit more weight. Now let's look at the tenses that we can use with unless. In the unless clause, we use the present simple to talk about the future. Even though the present simple is often used to talk about the present, with unless we're often talking about the future. Look at these examples below. I'm going to quit my job unless I receive a pay increase very soon. The words in bold, unless I receive, are in the present simple. The first clause is the future going to tense, but the unless clause is in the present simple. This is actually expressing a future meaning. Similarly, in the second sentence, unless you get a very strict instructor, I think you'll pass your driving test easily. So again, in the first clause, the unless clause, we have the present simple, unless you get. Again, this is expressing a future meaning. The second clause is using will. We also use unless with the present simple and present continuous to talk about the present. Look at these examples below. We won't get to the wedding on time unless this traffic moves more quickly. Here we're using the present simple in the unless clause. In this example, the present simple is expressing a present meaning. So this person is talking about right now. You will be able to know whether they're talking about the present or the future from the context. So in this example, the person is obviously in the car and sitting in lots of traffic. So he or she is obviously talking about the present. And in the second example, we're using the present continuous with unless. Unless you're still studying, let's go grab some lunch together. So here we have unless you are studying, the present continuous to talk about the present. Again, you will know it's about the present from the context. So perhaps this person is calling his friend and he's saying, unless you're still studying, which means right now. There's the structure for unless. As I said, it's quite flexible in terms of where it can appear in a sentence and in terms of what tenses we can use alongside it. So now move on to the things to note and then the listening and speaking practice exercises. This will get you more familiar with the structure of unless.